And now we're live, and we'll just give everybody a moment to join.
I like your background, by the way, Monique.
I was trying to make it in the theme at the last second. I'm like, I got to take a slide.
All right, well, so it looks like people are starting to join us. For those of you that are here, thank you very much for being here. Tonight we're joined by Tom Peszek. Everybody seems to call you Peszek, by the way. That's the way that I hear you most oftenly referred to as.
People called me worse. That's fine.
Okay, that's good. Well, I haven't heard the worst. So he is an Olympian from 2012 and currently looking to make his way to Tokyo this summer, correct?
That's the plan.
All right. It's a good plan. We're wishing you well on your plan.
Thank you.
And so we thought tonight what we could talk about a little bit is routine, because all athletes need a routine, and rowers in particular, they have routines, things that they eat on race day, things that they do, etc. And so we thought that that was something that you could talk to people about, and then also maybe give some insight into your routine and maybe other people's routines, because different athletes have different routines.
Sure. Very true. Very true. Sure. Do you want me just to start digging into it?
I would say go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
So I guess the first thing to say is that I always feel like in rowing, there's the difference between technique and style. And, there's different styles that, some boats do it, some boats don't. Maybe it's faster, maybe it's not, but there's a lot of different ways to do it. And, if you swing back more or swing back less, it's not necessarily right or wrong. And then there's the technique things, which are right or wrong. If you miss 5 feet of water at the catch, that's always bad, no matter what your style is. I think that same thought applies to how people prepare for racing. There's a lot of different variables and a lot of different ways to do it. And some of the different ways to do it, it's just a matter of style. But on the flip side, there are also things you can do right and wrong. So there's a set of things that have right and wrong answers. And there's also a set of things that are kind of dependent on the individual, dependent on the crew. So not necessarily one or the other. Beyond that, I was kind of thinking about this when you reached out to me, Bobby, and I kind of broke down the race routine into kind of 3 phases broadly, is how I guess I think about it. And I kind of think about the before, the day of, and then like the T-2 hours or so. So like the actual about to race kind of thing. So in the before, I think the kind of really the prep and getting ready for racing, I mean, it probably starts on day 1 of your season, but I kind of generally think of a regatta as starting about a week or 2 beforehand. And so that's about the time when mentally I want to start building up my plan to know what I'm going to do in the days leading up to the regatta. So a week or 2 out, I want to know 3 days, 2 days, 1 day before, what are my workouts? How am I going to approach them? What do I want to accomplish? And I never really write that in stone. That's always something that I want a plan for, so that if I need to be flexible, I have a baseline and then I can kind of make the changes as I need to. But I think it's always helpful to know sort of what the baseline is, what the plan is. And then when you have to deviate because something goes wrong, at least you know what you're deviating from. I think the biggest reason to do this is, well, I guess there's 2 reasons. One is just to make sure that you're complete in your preparation, you don't miss something. And then secondly, I find that it just kind of minimizes those extra surprises and stressors that can pop up on race day. Racing is stressful enough, and it just doesn't help to add more and more things that are only going to slow you down. So I kind of think about the plan in terms of a few things. There's kind of some things that people tend to overlook, and it's kind of the basics. It's, what am I going to eat? What equipment and tools do I need? And even some simple things such as transportation, right? You don't want to wait until the day of the race to figure out just those basic logistic things. And if you can plan those out a week or 2 in advance, that's something that you can kind of compartmentalize and put in the back of your brain and just know that it's done and it'll be ready to go when you need it, and you don't need to focus on it.
I'm going to ask you a question about food.
Yes.
So how do you, when you're traveling, know, like, I know I'm going to be able to eat like whatever? Do you have a really strict diet, or is it something where like you're pretty flexible wherever you travel? It's not that big of a deal.
Great question. I don't really have I'm not too picky about it. I maybe have some likes and dislikes, but I know for me, it's not going to make a huge difference. And I've traveled and raced in a whole bunch of different countries, and I've never really had too big of a problem finding something to eat. Maybe the toughest was in Korea, but even there, you can find something that's agreeable. Korea was.
Tokyo will be fine.
Pardon me?
Tokyo will be fine, hopefully.
Tokyo, I'm sure. I mean, pretty much all these countries are fine, and I'm sure most people, you're really just talking about domestic races, anyways, right? So it's not too hard to find something that you want. Generally, regattas are always near some sort of a grocery store, right? So if nothing else, I can always just go get some granola bars or power bars or something, and hey, I know that my stomach agrees with that. So I'm never too worried about that. But it is nice to have an itinerary, to have a plan, to know where the different places are that have the kind of foods that you need or want. I guess I'm a bit lucky. I know that a lot of people have dietary restrictions or just more picky tastes than I do, and so you have to look at yourself and understand if you're somebody that is flexible and you don't need a detailed plan about exactly what you're going to eat and when, that's great. But if you're the kind of person that has, either you have those dietary needs or you just prefer to have that more ironclad, it definitely helps to have a real plan. Or I've known people that will, they'll go totally crazy with it, and they will just prep out every meal in advance and they'll bring it with them. Maybe you have to check an extra bag if you're flying, but if you know that that's what you need, if you know that that's what you helps, that's something to definitely think through in advance. Great question.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
And then you also talked about, so transportation isn't something I think I've ever thought about in regards to planning out. So when you're traveling, is that typically an issue, or?
It can be. I mean, most of the races that I've done lately, kind of at the international level, there's generally somebody at US Rowing kind of plans it out for me, which is nice. But generally then, in some of these regattas, like if I have to run the crew, if I'm the bowman, I'll at least want to know, what time is the bus coming? Where do we get on the bus? Do we need to make those arrangements in advance? Even at the international level, the coaches have to communicate with support staff to figure out, to make sure that the regatta bus is going to be there, right? How do you get from the hotel to the course? And it's one of those things that it seems just kind of trivial, like, well, I've got bigger things to worry about. But that's just one of those little things that can kind of trip you up on race day, right? If you are just planning on getting an Uber and then you wake up in the morning and there's no easy Uber available, it just kind of throws a wrench. And that's an extra thing you have to worry about that you don't really want in your head on race day.
Yeah, you don't want any added stresses.
For sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's 1 to 2 weeks, you said prior. And then you said you broke it down further. Yeah,
a couple other things to say about the kind of the before period, I guess. One is I don't think you should ever really have any big routine changes on race days. You should generally eat what you normally eat. You should generally sleep the amount that you normally sleep. You shouldn't be looking to pull a rabbit out of a hat with any of just the basic routine parts of your life. I think that's generally a universal thing for almost everybody. There are some people that do change those things up, but if they do that, they know from prior experience that that's what works for them. So in general, you always want to keep that routine. You don't want to try to do something radical. This is not the right time to try to go keto, for example. You don't want to be looking for a miracle. You just want to know what you're going to do and go and do it. And then kind of the last thing, and sort of dovetails into that, is I had a coach in college who always said that when it comes to sleep, it's the night before that matters the most. And his point was that in general, the night before a race, maybe you're going to get a good night's sleep, but a lot of us, the nerves are a little too high, and maybe you're not going to get good sleep quality. You might toss and turn. It might take you too long to fall asleep. But if you know that the night before is the one that matters for the sleep, you can relax a little bit. If you don't get a great night's sleep the night before, you're still going to be fine. If you've taken care of yourself in those days up to it, those little bit of nerves are not going to hold you back. A little bit of missed sleep, a little bit of nerves isn't gonna hurt you on race day.
Yeah, I had heard that the body works in like 48-hour sleep cycles. So that's why it was like, that would be the one that's the most important anyway.
That would make sense. Yeah. And also it's also a calming realization to know that, okay, it's, I can see my clock ticking up. This is way later than I wanted to fall asleep. But you can take comfort in knowing that you don't need to panic. It's okay if you're just kind of resting. Sleep is great, but there's nothing to panic about there. Everybody gets nervous before the race.
Yeah.
So then I guess I kind of think about the stuff that's the day of, and this is generally kind of mental states for me. So the first thing is, I think it's important for everybody to know what mental state they thrive in personally. I know for me that it works best if I embrace the nerves. I don't try to calm myself down. I have found that my best performances are when I feel the pressure and I face it and I know that it's there, and I don't try to deny it. I don't try to tell myself it's not there. I find that using those nerves is what makes me perform at my peak. So, there are some people who tend to come in better with a mentality of sort of like I don't have anything to lose, something maybe a little bit more loose like that. And that definitely works for a lot of people. But I can tell you my own experiences, I know that just knowing that those nerves are there, not trying to deny them, not trying to hide them, not trying to fake my way through them, but to know them, to embrace them, and to use them, that's where my mental state is best.
Sounds like a very Zen way of being, right? Like the thoughts are things and you just like let them be. It's fine.
Sure. It doesn't feel Zen in the moment. That much.
Well, you did say you feel the pressure. So like,
yes.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You kind of got to take a step back and kind of look at yourself and the thoughts and not just be in them. And on that note, I think music is a great way to do it. I'll put on some headphones. I'm from Detroit, so I'll listen to some Eminem, whatever.
Oh, I love Eminem. I'm with you.
Yeah, some people listen to everything from classical to rap to metal to, anything. It doesn't, whatever puts you in the right state to maximize your performance, absolutely go for it. And some people none at all. Which totally makes sense. The flip side to this on the day of the race is to know what mental state your teammates want to be in and what state your teammates thrive in. Because not everybody is me. Not everybody likes to have that nervous mentality. There are people that is not where they perform their best. And it's not really conducive to the boat when, the other guy who doesn't want to be nervous keeps telling me to not be nervous and, we have nothing to lose and all this. That's not going to help me do my best. So a lot of it is kind of knowing that you can be in your best mental state and you can help your teammates out by letting them be in the mental state that works best for them. If you have a teammate who does kind of perform best with that zero nerves, total chill, then you got to back them up in that way. You've got to support that mentality in how you talk to them. But the one thing that is kind of universal, pretty much no matter what mental state somebody thrives in, is that you want to have some intention and you want to be upbeat and be positive with your teammates. It's always, always, always useful to be the guy at the course, to be there with your teammates, to be the guy who's focused and positive. It's the darndest thing. It's free speed. It shouldn't work. We'd like to think we're all robots and that we just show up to the course and it doesn't matter how we think and how we feel. We're going to perform our best. But the truth of the matter is that there's something to it when you've got a whole boat of people who are positive, who are amped up, who are supporting each other, who are saying positive things, doing positive actions. It always makes boats go faster. And it's kind of more fun too, which I guess is half the point of this thing, right?
I think you definitely should be having fun. If you're not having fun, I don't know why you'd be doing it. So
what's the point, I guess?
Yeah, right? Exactly. You got to be enjoying this, especially in the midst of all of that's been going on in the last year. If you weren't enjoying something, like definitely not, shouldn't be continuing to do it. So you mentioned that some of your teammates are different. Like they have different, routines on the day of. Some, I know I've been around people before that like just really need to goof off. I myself am a little more like, okay, I got to have some time to myself. Are there how about rituals? Like, does anybody have any like funny superstitions or rituals or anything that they need to do on race day that you can think of?
I don't really have any. I don't know if it counts quite, but I did have a teammate who actually performed his best if before the race, like even an hour or two beforehand, pretty much did an all-out 500-meter test on the erg.
That just sounds crazy.
I wouldn't recommend it for anyone, but for him it worked. Because he was just super strong. So he had that incredible engine where it didn't really cost him, I guess, to do a hard 500 before. But I think for him, it worked really well as a warm up and maybe psychologically too, right? To kind of give him that confidence boost of like, yeah, look at how strong I can go. And that didn't even hurt. Okay, I can definitely do this. So I don't know if that's quite what you're looking for. Maybe you're asking for like lucky socks or something like that.
Well, there's those things too. No, but I mean, that's a great example. I think that it's one that it's definitely not one I would have thought of. It's not one that I would ever, I can tell you, I don't think I'll be doing that myself, but it's still good to hear that people are doing things and that they work for them. And he obviously knew it would work for him because I'm sure he did it time and time and time again. My only question for him would be like, how did he discover that? Did he just accidentally happen upon it? Was it something a coach told him to do? It's, who knows?
I think it was a coach suggestion, because I think he would kind of, I think he would get on the water and he'd kind of overpower it. He'd get a little bit nervous and he would kind of rely too much on his sort of, how athletes get sometimes when you want to go fast, well, I'm going to go harder. Which as a coach, I guess you never want to discourage that, but you want to always make sure it's focused in the right way. So I don't know, maybe the thought was to kind of help the guy take the edge off of it a little bit, and to maybe force him to get a little bit more relaxed and to kind of row a little more technically sound, even if it came at the cost of, a couple of watts.
Get all those really hard strokes out so that he could
get the nervous ones out, maybe.
Yeah, get the nerves out. Absolutely. Yeah, I was hoping for something a little juicier, but it's okay.
Yeah, I can't, I don't have too many.
I had a teammate in college who wore the same sports bra for all 4 years. She only wore it for racing by the end of it because it was not in good shape. But whatever, it worked for her. It was her thing.
I mean, guys, a lot of guys, especially in the team, will kind of, we'll maybe let our facial hair grow, especially when we're all in kind of quarantine. And then if you have a bad piece in practice, you'll see the guy show up the next day clean shaven. So that happens.
Wasn't lucky anymore.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this thing's run out of luck. I need to try something else. So that's pretty common.
Okay, all right, that's cool. I have no idea if I can't think of anything else. We said it was probably going to be about 15 minutes. This is perfect, and I love this. Routine is part of what every athlete needs to become acquainted with for themselves on race day, and like you said, leading up to it. So I think this is great information. And I personally have enjoyed this. Is there anything else you can think to add?
I mean, that's about it in terms of sort of like the prep before the day of. And then I think once you get to that T-minus 2 hours, I think that's where you come in as a coach, and that's where you kind of get to take over. So.
Oh, where I definitely
as a coach.
Take over as a coach. I think at that point I launch you and I pray.
Good luck.
Exactly. I hope I did my job. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess on race day, we've got to check the boats over as coaches. We've got to make sure that all the athletes get out there, get warmed up, get ready to go. For anybody, by the way, who received our letter, there is a warm up in there for 2K day. So make sure to check that out. And mostly on race day, though, I mean, I hope I've done my job with my athletes, that they're mentally prepared, physically prepared, and as I launch them, that they feel confident that they know what they're doing. They know how to put the oars in and out of the water, and that they can do it for however long the race takes. So
sure. I'll add one thing if we have the time. I don't
we do
too much time. The one thing I'm really a big fan of is to do your race warm up at least a few times in practice beforehand. So if you've got a hard workout a week before, a few days before, whatever it is, go through the exact same warm up you're going to do on race day. And for me personally, that usually entails kind of a low, easy erg bike for 30 something minutes. And then when I get on the water, I want my warm up to be short, efficient. I want just a 1 or 2 tens just to feel it, maybe a start or two, and then I want to lock on and go. So that's kind of my approach, at least to the warm up, is to, as I don't want to spend a lot of time on the water. Once that boat's in the water, we are locked on mentally. We are ready to go. We have a short, simple plan that we're going to execute, and then we're going to lock on and go.
That makes absolute sense. I think Mike Shannon one time told me no more than 60 hard strokes during the warm up for the race. And that's about what you just said. A couple of tens, some starts, that's 60 strokes, you're ready to go. So yep. That makes sense.
Not looking for a miracle. You know what you're capable of. You go and you execute it, and that's how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, thank you for this. I'm excited. I think that I know I had a great time. It was really a joy. So, and this is the first time I've ever really talked to you besides telling you how to like pump the gas bulb on the launch. I think that's the only time I've ever talked to you before. So this is great.
I'm a better rower than a coach. I'm still,
I don't know.
I've
I've heard exactly the opposite. I've heard people that really enjoyed being coached by you on that singles day.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the other way. I thought you're a terrible rower, but an okay coach.
No, I think you're good at both. See,
okay.
It doesn't have to be either or.
I will take that compliment. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So anyway, thank you. And we're going to send this out to people that missed it and let them watch us. I don't think we have any questions. So we're good. Other than that, have a lovely evening. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.